guys aren't doing enough of this and this. You know, you'll use quite a lot of it, especially this. I mean, I use a lot of it, so do put enough out. Don't just be, you know, too stingy with it. Really, you know, white, you need a big block of white. You don't need much yellow, you don't need so much cerulean unless you're doing a vineyard or something, or a huge sky. So other things you don't need very much of. But that and that is your my sort of main thing. So, thickness. So if it's too thin, what I do is this. If it's coming out too thin, I just put more paint in, so it's just of the right consistency, which is something like that. Looks about right. So I can make it thicker, just put more paint in. It's still see-through, and if I want to, that's nice. So it's warmer. So see this whole. So if I can scrub it in like that, then it's wet enough. It might need to be a little bit wetter. Right, but I don't want it really running too much. It dries pretty quickly. So, you know, if you're doing a kind of, say this is the wall, trying to do the wall as a kind of thing straight away. A la Ken Howard. Loose kind of, so the ivy's going to go up there, you know, this beam across here, and not too much of this wall because it's all green and horrible, so I'm going to deal with it. Right, so let's just put that there. And slightly pinker grey for the foreground shadow and this stuff. So which way is that line going? That way. So, like for the green stuff at the top and the bottom of the wall, I'm going to apply a kind of dark, what I can see into the shadow of it. You know, I'm not worried about the green leaves. I'm going to put in the stuff that's behind the green leaves, right? So the dark stuff, which is kind of like reddy brown or something. So that's what I would put in there. So I just need a dark colour to put the leaves on top of. And I would do the same up here. So there's something of a kind of redness underneath it, which I see. And basically I'm going to need a dark. So I could make it green if I want to by adding a tiny bit of yellow, and then we've got that sort of, you know, that stuff up there, which I would close off at the top so it comes down to our point of interest here. Another thing to bear in mind is that situations like this, where you've got parallel lines, like that and that, you know, any angles you've got, you don't have to overdo it, but don't make them horizontal, don't make them, what's the word?
Parallel?
Parallel to the outside edge. You know, don't draw attention to the outside edge. Slightly different angle. Maybe the two things will be slightly different angles. Just use a bit of, you know, what's it called?
Perspective.
Perspective, thank you. Tim, you've got a job. So that's just, you know, and again, so the way that this comes down, you know, rather than, don't make it square, look at things. I mean, okay, some of the uprights need to be upright, but everything else has got kind of interesting shapes and stuff. Now, straight away, the background, we're going to do exactly what we do with the mountains, because it's just kind of like, you start off blue or purple or very dark blue-green, but something that's going to disappear, basically. And darker than that, and probably more purple. And I can pull it back out of that later, but basically, initially, I need this, to make everything else work, I need this to go away and to be dark. The great temptation, for a lot of people do this scene, is that you can leave sky up here, and, you know, personally, I think that's just a distraction because you want everything to happen here, you know, really at the foot here. So I'm going to continue that, ignore that sky up there. I'm going to continue my the trees, which my purple trees up there. I need to put my thing back in. Right, so we're going to fill that up. So I want a fairly colourless, disappearing thing. Same thing with all this green stuff on this side. I'm going to do what will be the background for it. I'm not going to try and, so I'm going to put in a kind of warmish grey, I guess, somewhere in here. And that's a continuation of that. And everywhere where there's going to be bright green, I'm going to try and leave, like up here. And there'll be bits of, I'm going to put on top of this stuff so it's going to stand out. So thickness of paint, it's all still washy, it's not running, and it's not dry either, but it would be easy enough to apply paint over that. I won't have any problems. Dark in this corner, and that line there is quite an important line, how that does that, and then back into this. This thing here. There, let's stay. Right. Reinforce some of the darks, like there. The ivy up here, underneath, that overhangs, get that dark enough to work off. Next to the wall, warm, stony wall. Enough paint, but wet enough too. I can use a variety of kind of greys. It's sort of slightly bluer at the top, up here where it's slightly, then it gets warmer down at the bottom there. You can quite quickly, so obviously this has got to be shade too, it's in shade. Don't forget your lightest thing is still going to be these things that are white. You're leaving everything that's going to be bright, clean white. That's what I do. Again, I want to keep this is a pretty big flat surface, but I don't want to paint every brick, so I need to keep it kind of lively enough with paint. So don't fuss it. Try and keep it nice and painty. That would be your Susan. Debbie.
Yes.
Yeah. So that would be an example of where you might think, well, all I can do is we're going to make that more interesting and fuss it, but actually that's something you could just put in very loosely and keep it absolutely, as brushy and loose as possible, because you're not going to improve it by going to detail. So the same down here on this side is a kind of warm edge. That's a brush stroke. We brush stroke twice. On this side, it's slightly, there's a warm bit there. Even warmer. Alright, let's get back into that. The beam. So the beam is divided into three. It's hot underneath, where it's getting lots of reflected light. In the middle it's kind of cool grey, a bit darker, more grey. Through the middle of it maybe. And then at the top it's lit. And it's got sort of pinky. So that I'm trying to do this so that the things you brought up at lunch and you're having problems with, I want to talk about. So if there's anything you want to ask, now's the time. Now's the time. That's not very good. Put some green over this, keeping it very dark. And there, for this sort of thing where you don't really want it to be, you want it as a background, there are various solutions. You might come up with a different one. You might have it lighter, and that might work too. basically we want it to go away. And we know there's going to be things on top of it that will make it go away, hopefully. So, it's the irises. A cool green grey. And that'll be some. Another thing is because you want, because I want this to be the most important thing. I don't want to have lots of detail over here or any hard edges over here. So that would be an example of a line that you use to keep. This would be softer and maybe more extreme here. Right? So you don't really want it to be very obvious down here. So you don't want to go into big detail there. Mm-hmm. So that's a great place to be looser, and up here to be a little bit more descriptive and a bit more detailed. So just be a bit more. Keep more. Not forgetting, this is all still the shadows we're doing there. So, you can see what percentage of this is dark stuff. It's probably about 95% of it is shade. So we need a strong line there. And that's so dramatic. Can you all hear me? Alright. No.
No, not really. There's
Who
a lot
said
of competition
that?
from the wind and the waterfall.
Okay, well, ask me to repeat if you want me to. Yeah. Oops. Wrong brush. Yeah, hang on, let's do that green first. Let's put in some more greens. So this here, for example, starts off fairly dark at the top. Goes down. So lighter green. Again, I'm not really going to leaves. It's just a block of stuff. But what there is some lit leaves coming through already. There are things going through. These extra. It's too dark. Do that. Too dark too.
Would you add a little purple to that green to set it off?
Just to grey it, yeah. I'm thinking about the base. Just think I've just got in the hat now. So everywhere things meet up, where my bright things are meeting things are kind of set up. Hopefully. Yeah. Good man. Yeah, that's when you hat. And actually all this is really difficult to see that stuff. So things is quite cool. But there's a huge difference between even these things where they're quite cool and the dark trees in the background. So make that kind of quite clear. Yeah, rough. And then it's dark enough now. Not the base. Makes you warmer. And again, wherever you can, you know, one stroke, one piece of paint. That'll do. And then there's that one here, there's a light was trying to break through there, which I knew would happen. So you can continue that. So now you see that starts to go right back, whatever, because of the stuff in front of it. Perhaps a little less. So Karen, let's go again.
Right here.
Right, so you know this is now, you know, kind of, I mean it'll come off my finger, but I can easily paint on top of it. So I don't.
That's exactly where
So I can.
it starts. My paint starts melting into the dark.
Right, it's probably just a consistency thing then. Just so that you can maybe practice a little bit. So this into here. Just going to do this all very rough anyway. Trying to give you that idea. And you might want to pick out, you know, with time you can pick out leaf shapes and individual, identify different plants and stuff by so that's got white paint off it. And it needs to be darker at the bottom here. Let's get rid of all that. So those are all probably lit at the bottom because their light's bouncing off this and sort of making it look quite light. And then you've got this incredible bright thing keeps happening here. A different level of brightness altogether. You can't do it without having dark enough background in the first place.
Okay, yeah, I can't hear you now.
You can't make this really bright unless you've got a dark enough background in the first place. So it's really where you keep seeing the light breakthrough here, for example. And you've got to, you can, it's nearly pure yellow and white, very light colour. But you know, it's got to be dark enough for that to work. It's broken through there as well, but they're not lit.